Okay, let's turn the dog sacrifice idea and the conversation I had with my mom into a positive thing. I put the dogs outside so I could talk to the video camera, and my mother said that it's much better when you can hear somebody's voice trying to get to know them than it is if you're reading things, because you might not um, be able to pick up on the facial expressions and the voice and eye contact and those things. So this is going to be my first video, and I guess that we should talk about sacrifices and what my thought of a good sacrifice was. Now, I think that when you're talking about sacrifices, it needs to be things that are it not like, let me sacrifice my dog, or let me sacrifice um um a baby. Like, no, nobody wants to think about doing things like that. Good sacrifices are like, I'm gonna, for instance, you give up things so that you can have better health. Like, you get sober, or you get a healthier diet so that you can um to have good health. And then there's the things like gosh, it's weird to to talk to myself. So, like, let me think for a minute. Uh oh, for instance, with um like, one of the things that I do is that instead of buying things, I decide to build things. Or instead of going to get packaged food, you can grow things in your garden. And you go backwards, kind of like you're going towards the olden days, because those are voluntary sacrifices, because you don't have to do a lot of things because of the way things have been made convenient for us. And like, you can learn how to change your own oil in your truck. Learn how to you can learn how to do anything at your house. You can learn about your electricity. You can do all those kinds of things. So when you talk about voluntary sacrifice, I think of, like, it's going to take more time and study to learn how to do whatever it is that you decide to do, but the rewards for it are more long lasting when you decide to sacrifice the convenience. And as far as our social arenas are, and how I complain about that quite often, it's because um the big factor is convenience. Everybody gets in and out of places so quickly, and if you want something in depth of a conversation, or to get to know somebody, you almost have to search on the computer or seek out books where there are interviews. And so that should be what we cover next. And I'll leave the video up as is. And here's my voice and what I sound like. Okay? I think that's simple enough to focus on. Let's not talk about sacrificing animals and sacrificing babies, and putting ourselves through hell. Like, when it's you need to think of the Cain and Abel story as and that's what I tried to write about before. Cain I like to think of it this way. Cain represents, or it depends on how you think of him. If you think of him as a murderer, um, and that in a bad light, and he keeps having to carry his genetic line forward, well, you're and we could use that. We could use murder as a good thing. Like, okay, every time you give up a job, just like the Indians, how they got driven away from their land. Every time you give up a job, like you decide it's going to be easier that I get microwave dinners, and then you don't know how to cook, and then you're passing on a tradition to your children that that it's just going to be easier to get the TV dinner, and that gets easier and easier and easier, and that would be the path of Cain nowadays. And so the fear is not, the fear is stupidity. That one of the fears is stupidity and laziness. And that could apply to any of us because we're in the same types of environments. You voluntarily choose education. You voluntarily choose to learn about your house. You voluntarily choose to keep your body fit or whatever, because if you don't, then you're gonna be passing on inferior qualities to your genetic line of people. It will affect more than yourself. It'll affect the people around you and all that kind of stuff. I make that one of my top things. It doesn't matter. I mean, you can get into anything and enjoy it. It's just like getting into your zone. But you might find that you get depressed when you try and go do things that are easiest, because it doesn't satisfy you. It doesn't satisfy you at all if you don't have to work for things. And I'm not talking about a paycheck. I'm talking about you actually have to put effort into what you're doing. You don't have have some easy button. You have to think through it, and the more that you can do that, it's like an architect of your head, that you'll enjoy it more and more and more. And that's the definition of voluntary sacrifice. That's a good one to leave it at, okay?